When we look at cancer, and I think that's the main subject and you're all well aware of it, there are several reasons for you to be here. And some of those reasons are because you hit the brick wall yourself, like you've been going and going and going, and all of a sudden you get the diagnosis, or you have someone who is not doing too well and you care for someone else, right? Who is here just because they are curious and nosy without having any problems? Wow, quite a few, really? That's good, because normally when we find or when we ask, most people are really just reacting. Whereas the preventative means, and that's why I like when there's so many hands going up, is really the best way to heal and to cure cancer. Once you have it, it's a real battle. And it's something that we can't take lightheartedly. It's not something that you can say, well, I'm going to choose a little bit and I do some lifestyle changes. It requires full throttle. And one of the doctors that we met, Dr. Connealy, those of you who have seen the movie, okay, a few of you, Dr. Connealy is a very, passionate doctor. And she said, Marcus, when someone comes, the main thing is I need to convince them that we should with everything we've got. We need to really do everything possible so that we catch up and bring everything into a working order before we then start with maintenance plans. So it's really important that we look at many aspects. And what I've put together today is really like full throttle. It's a lot. It's over 160 slides. Who has received the slides that I send out? I have some printed it out. It's too much to print, so good. You'll look at them at home, just make some notes. But it's quite important that you just follow through. There is many aspects of it. And if you have a naturopath or a health practitioner or a GP, don't hesitate to ask those things that we go through, because they need to work with you. To do it all on your own is very scary, I would say. It's very dangerous as well, because you don't have, the right tests to check how you do. And a lot of people that we met have done a lot, but never checked, never tested, and then in the end they get the big surprise. So do it with your health practitioner. Before we go further, I'd just like to, the information contained in this presentation is not to be intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. It's provided for educational purposes only. We share with you what we've learned from patients and doctors from around the world. You assume full responsibility how you choose to use this information. Now, the good news first, we all have cancer. And that means you don't need to be jealous. We all have it, and it's something that we need to become aware of. Every single person develops every single day about 40 to 100,000, sometimes up to 400,000 cancer cells. And they float around the body, they establish somewhere. Some of them, they sit there for 10, 20 years and don't do anything. And others, they start to build blood vessels to them, and then they start to feed, and then they grow into a tumor. Before you have the lump bump state, which is what you diagnosed with, the first lump, you have that thing for 7 to 8 years, 10 years sometimes. Depending on how fast growing the cancer is, it can be very slow motion. And they did a biopsy of young girls in China, in Japan, and they did a biopsy from 18-year-old girls who had died of an accident, and they tested the stomach lining of them, and they found tumor cells already in the stomach without them expressing any problems yet. So we all have it, and it's always growing within us. It's only the balance that we hold if we keep enough immune booster up and we keep the cancer low. So if we hold that balance, we're actually maintaining health. But it's not that anybody here has none. We all have cancer cells. Okay, it works. It was the sound. The sound is plugged in, it doesn't work. Okay, the bad news is there is no cure which you can buy. Now, everybody who has tried, and I really would like to know of you who has tried Laetrile? Who has tried, some of those cures that are sold on the internet? Anybody tried them? Amygdalin, yes. Sorry? Curcumin, okay, very good. Black salve. Now, has that changed anything? I have a very good friend. He's the actor in the movie Australia, or one of the actors. It's Tony Barry. Does somebody know him? He's a very nice gentleman. He has about 68 melanoma on his legs since 12 years. And he uses every cure under the sun, and he still has them. He pulls them out, very painful. Black salve is very painful to use. He pulls those toxins out and the tumor out, and then they regrow. So that doesn't really work, which means we're not looking at a cure which we can buy. What we do is we look at common sense. If there are reasons for you to have cancer, we look at them and we remove those reasons. And that's what the top clinics around the world do. If you go to some of the cancer clinics in really top places like Germany, what they do is they reverse everything that you've created, which caused the cancer to grow, and then start to clean up your life. And one of the main factors for that is cancer should actually be called ISO. Immune system overload. Like what I said before, we have not enough immune cells to clean up what we need to do, the job to maintain the cancer. Now, that's your immune system. This little fellow is a white blood cell. And this white blood cell travels in your blood plasma, and in this case, he chases bacteria. As you can see, it's like a fully intelligent little entity that travels. These are red blood cells, and you can see they are a little dented, so they're not very healthy. And as he crawls through, he just catches bacteria. He eats up dead cells. He eats up cells which are flagged to be cancer cells. If you have a cancer cell, they normally should tell, hey, I'm wrong, I should be eaten up, but they hide. They build a shield around them. And that's why they are very hard to catch. And we go through some of the treatments that flag those cancer cells with heat shock proteins. So all of a sudden your immune system says, hey, that's a wrong cell and I can eat it up. But that's something you need to do to actually cause that effect. Now, as you can see, this little fellow is quite active, and I love them. There is beautiful techniques in Mexico where they teach you how to visualize them. And that's why we draw them up on the previous drawing as a little fellow, which is really a policeman, and he travels through my body. And I do visualization when I sit in the sauna, when I do my hot bath, when I do my clay bath. I actually visualize them, how they work and how they clean up and how I support them. Now, have you seen on the picture before, the guy was sleeping? How does that happen? Why do some of those immune cells not work? Because we all have them, but some don't work. Because, I come to that as well. Because we feed them with stuff that makes them sleep. And we come to some of them in more detail. Sugar, if you have in the morning, let's say you have your toast and your bun, and then you have your coffee with sugar, creates an acidic environment. It's turned immediately into acidity in your body, plus the sugar itself makes your immune system sleep for 4 hours. After 4 hours, what do you have then? Lunch! Yes, pizza, pasta, bread, anything that turns into sugar, which means they sleep again for 4 hours, depending on the load. And then we come to dinner. What's for dinner? A glass of wine, like anything that turns into sugar as well. Makes these fellows sleep the whole day. They can't work. And that's just one of the effects. There's many more, an acidic environment, stress, and we come to all of those in detail. But if you keep them down, if they can't work, if they don't have enough energy, you can't use any cure and heal yourself. Now, a man had a blister on his foot, and he went to the doctor and said to that doctor, I need a remedy for that. And the doctor said, yeah, that's okay, we can do that. and put a Band-Aid on, gave him a pill against the pain, and then he gave him some antibiotics to put on that leg. But he went home and it just hurt the same way. You know, it didn't go away. And the further he traveled, the worse it got. And this whole thing really turned out to be ulceritis and inflamed, and he even turned out to have fever. And then he came to a very wise man and he said, why don't you look if you have a splinter or a pebble or a stone in your shoe? And that's what we're doing today. We try to discover all the pebbles that make us sick. Because to put a Band-Aid onto the leg doesn't help. We need to really remove the pebbles. All right, what are those pebbles? Toxic overload is one of the first ones that we talk about. And I know you think you are so far away from the world here, you have no toxins, and the air comes fresh from the ocean. I think you are right. You have a lot less than if you live in Europe. And I think the pollution here from the ocean is not very strong, especially on the southern hemisphere. I believe we are blessed to be here, because in the northern hemisphere, the radioactive circulation from Fukushima is so extremely high. We've been in Canada, in Vancouver, while Fukushima went up, and I happen to have a Geiger counter because I'm always prepared. So we tested the river, the rainfall that was coming off went up to 54 milligauss. This is huge. This is really strong. So I think down here, we're well protected. You have nothing circulating before you, so it's good. But you have a lot of mining here. And mining, dependent on the wind, dependent on what you work, there is certainly a lot of pebbles. Then we have chronic inflammations, which I guess we all have. Overuse of antibiotics. Can someone tell me who did not have, ever in their life, antibiotics? How often? As child and then never again? Okay, a few of you. And the rest has it quite regularly. When you have a cold or when you have a problem or when you have a disease. No? Not anymore? No. Good. Well, it's one of those killers that we do not recognize as being one of the worst problems in this world. Yes, antibiotics have helped, but they are a drama. They are a huge danger. Don Tolman in his talk really said, if you have antibiotics, take them out in a plastic box, bury them deep in the ground and check out that nothing leaches into the ground because you poison the world. And he's right, because they kill our gut bacteria. And you know what lives in your gut? 80% of your immune system is produced in your gut. Now, with every time you use antibiotics, you kill your gut. You kill all those bacteria that you need to break down the food, to take out all the nutrients out of the food, and you never re-establish a healthy gut, which we come to as well. So I'll move on, because we cover all those subjects in detail, but that leads us to a reactive and a proactive. And I think if you're here and you're interested in this subject, you're moving into the proactive field. Who is dealing with cancer since long and would say, I'm already an expert, I know most of those treatments? Yes. 1, 2. Anybody else? 3?
Yeah.
Great. 4. Good. Who is completely new to it and would say, well, I just get a little bit of a bearing that I know what it is about? Okay, quite a few. And who is here because they have to? Husbands. Good. I like that. They are usually the ones that come afterwards with the most questions. That's the proactive state. We act. We just change our life, and instead of react and just take a pill. All right, and that brings us to attitude. Oh no.
I wanted to get this over with and go back to living my old life.
Okay, doesn't work anymore. Jessica, who knows the Wellness Warrior? She's a beautiful young lady, was diagnosed 5 years ago with cancer, her whole arm, and they wanted to amputate the arm. And she's doing extremely well. She started the Gerson therapy. She's doing a lot of other therapies as well. She's really jumped on board. And I was doing an interview with her and I said, Jessica, I want to know everything you're grateful for. And she said, grateful because of the disease? And I said, yes. She said, hello. She said, yes, because I actually really transformed my whole life. Everything that I had before was completely different and was completely transformed. And I said, do you like it now more than it was before? And she said, yes. Now that's not a normal thing, because when you let go of your old life, it can be very challenging. And I can tell you from my own, it's a step-by-step process. You don't do that all at once and you don't think it's easy. It's actually a really, really hard job. But once you do and you get to that state, and that's exactly what I try to show you today, the gratitude that comes from moving to that other corner, really away from your old life. And as you move, it's so empowering, it's so dramatic that you can, like her, afterwards say, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Who can already say that? Hey, look at this. Hey, I love it. It's the best thing that ever happened to us. And if it happens to more people, you know what? We're going to save this world. And this is where I really am passionate about. All right, so let's remove the stones. Toxins is number one.
When you get diagnosed with cancer, you wake up to the fact that you're being poisoned and you really want to survive. So you become conscious.
See, toxins were unheard of in 1930. And if you look at the graph of the introduction of toxins, approximately 1930 and really in 1940 to 2010, there's over 83,000 toxins allowed in the environment. They're allowed to be used every single day on our bodies, on babies.
The Google called 10 Americans is enough to depress anybody. In 7 minutes you will learn what is in the average blood of every child born in America today at birth. So they found the names of the neurotoxins, the endocrine disruptors, and the names of all of the neurotoxins and carcinogens that are in everybody at birth. The baby is a wastebasket for the mother. So all the toxins concentrate in the baby. So whatever mercury she has in her fillings, whatever she's breathing, whatever she has in her diet, and you cannot escape.
Okay, we're talking, have we done the testing on one chemical? Have we done the testing of the synergistic potential of 200 chemicals, of 10 chemicals in a human body?
So bottom line, we are all poisoned. We're on a poisoned planet. And we're not going to enjoy optimal health unless we do something about that.
And what are we going to do? Wait for the nuclear bomb to hit us one day?
Looking at bones from as recently as 400 years ago, everybody on Earth today has 1,000 times more lead in bones when you're born than anybody had. That's 1,000. That's when you're born. Then you accumulate as you keep breathing. Now, if you could stop breathing, it won't be such a problem. But it's the particulates in our air, and it's the particulates that come from the burning of coal. So that's the easiest way to understand it. And since when we turn on one new coal-burning power plant in Texas, we see a 15% increase in autism with one. They're turning on 50 new coal-burning power plants a month in China.
Cancer absorbs toxins, and these toxins probably epigenetically change the cell's genes to cancerous. The biggest difference between surrounding glands, healthy, and cancer glands was 1 to 30,000 more, higher concentration. We find always breast cancer is a toxic disease. Prostate cancer is a toxic and long-term bacteria disease. Bladder cancer, always cadmium in the mucous membranes, in the cancer tissue. Intestinal cancer, we did the same thing too. Lead, arsenic, mercury in the cancer tissue. It absorbs the toxins.
That's, by the way, Dr. Rao from Switzerland, and I really like his clinic because he does a stunning job. They are very, very good clinic, Paracelsus, and they have a stunning program. Like, they got all the gadgets, but they also do a very holistic approach. Now, they've done over the last 18 years, they did a program where every single biopsy was not only tested for how fast the cancer grows and what type of cancer, actually they did a toxicological test, and it was really amazing. They have studies of 2,000 prostate cancer, what kind of toxins have accumulated in the prostate, and they found that it's all to do with long-term bacteria, high bacteria load in the body, plus the cadmium and nickel, he said, and lead. So, like when you see such a long-term study, it's quite mind-blowing. How do we get all these chemicals in us? How do we get all those heavy metals in us? Well, and that's one part. When you look at creams, like from childhood on, the baby is creamed with Nivea, and we think, oh, it's very good. Everybody uses it. It's a good name. It protects my child. Well, it is not. Look at the list here of all those chemicals which are in cosmetic. If you use any color in your face, or lipstick on your lips, that's dangerous. Then we can go to Nivea here. Related to breast cancer, related in accumulated found in tissues, and parabens, to birth defect, carcinogens. If you study on the internet and you look through PubMed, some of the research studies, that stuff is toxic. And it's not only a little bit, because you use it every single day over a long period, which means it accumulates in the body, and every time it does, it causes more. Johnson's baby powder, that all of India powders every single day because it's beautiful and it's the most beautiful thing they can do, and they have the highest rate of ovarian cancer. Now, that's something that nobody will ever tell you. If you look here, evidence since 1973, the FDA had already evidence that it caused cancer. And it's still on the market, and it's still promoted, and it's still everywhere. Same thing with Suncream. We just had some interviews. I did the World Summit for Detoxification and interviewed about 25 world-leading experts. Suncream will probably within the next 5 years, if we get someone sensible into, have a label like the cigarettes, like causes cancer and shows all those images. That's what they have to put on Suncream. So highly toxic is it. And we still use it every day. And think about children starting at that age. As soon as they go out, kindergarten, put their stuff on. As soon as they're at school, that's bucket loads of toxins that those children absorb through the skin. And if you think we do not absorb through the skin, that's absolutely wrong. Put a plaster on, one of those patches against pain, and within a very short time, you have no more pain because it's absorbed through the skin. You can put glutathione, you can put many patches on, and they are immediately absorbed. So Suncream as well. That's bucket loads of toxins that you put on your children instead of using healthy stuff. Plenty. There are so many alternative sun creams which are non-toxic. Rosehip Skincare has a stunning one. We've used that now since 4 years. And we go skiing in the glacier without any problems and never had... Sorry? Is that rosehip oil, or is that... Not the rosehip. She's got a special sun cream, and it's beautiful. But rosehip oil as well, because it protects your skin. If you have high antioxidant load that you consume, you just take in the morning a bag of blueberries, put that into your smoothie, and then you have your blueberries together with a bit of high-dose vitamin C and some good oils like fish oil, and you don't get sunburned. You get a good tan, but you don't get sunburned, and you have enough antioxidants to take up the free radical damage from the sun. We just lost track. We just really listen to what media tells us, and we're brainwashed to do what they say instead of really doing a bit of research. And sun cream, never ever put that onto your children anymore. Find alternative solutions. There are plenty healthy and natural ones, but don't do that. Dump your cosmetics. When you read through the label of your perfumes, they are actually toxic waste, which needs to be rubber lined. If you spray on perfume, that should be rubber lined in toxic waste containers, because that's how toxic it is. And you absorb it through your lungs, through your skin, and there is plenty of natural ways. It really is a dangerous thing. And read through, we have on our website, I've interviewed, it'll come in a second, a doctor in Chicago, and he written the book Toxic Beauty, Samuel Epstein. Now, he has given us permission to use parts of his book in our online study course. And he went through about 17 of the best brands of perfume, like, I don't even know them, I'm not using perfume, so I don't know. L'Oréal, whatever, you know them probably better. And he showed exactly all the ingredients, and he showed the toxic measure, and I'll show you afterwards what kind of toxins they contain. They are really hazardous material. They couldn't be transported in bigger barrels across the road, because if they would break or get damaged, they would evacuate the area. And that's what we spray onto us. Okay, I need to go back one slide. I didn't see that I had pressed. That's it. That's what I just talked about that he said. We have carcinogens, we have mutagens, and we have teratogens. Now, these are in all of cosmetics, in all of the household cleaners that you use, in most of your shampoos and stuff that you use at home. And carcinogens, they cause cancer in the tissue. They actually change your DNA, and we'll talk about that in a minute. They change your DNA directly, and through that cause cancer. Now, if you're pregnant and you have a baby, while you use those toxins, or even before, from your birth till you have a baby, those toxins leach onto your DNA, change the DNA expression, cause certain defects, which then cause your baby to be born like this little baby here. We've been to a clinic in Irvine, California. They had over 600 children and babies with tumors, with completely crippled reproductive organs, with, how do you call it, when they have out here? Yes. Oh. You stand there and you just can't breathe anymore. And it's all hidden, because those parents who have children like that, do you think they carry that out and show it to the world? If your son is born with no reproductive organs, no penis, just none, just tiny little crippled entity down there, would you show that? Would you tell all your friends? No. But that's what these toxins do. And then you have mutagens, which are hereditary, and that's what we talk about later with the DNA test. You actually just give them on to all your next generations, and they're really, really dangerous. And then we have the teratogens. Now, that's from the Noosa River. That's fish with 2 legs, heads. Then you have here snakes with 2 heads. Now, that's where we say, oh, that's genetic toxins, that's in the environment. And then we see something like this. Would we say the same? No, it was a birth defect. These are toxins which are listed in your shampoos. And we've got on our website the whole list. Now just take it, browse it through, and check all your ingredients that you do at home. We have created a cancer SWOT, but not a lot of people invite us because it's really challenging. We go to someone's home and we have all the testers, formaldehyde tests, everything that you need, and we actually test their house for toxins. And we go through their pantry and through their pharmacy and through their whole, and we check out everything which is cancer causing. And usually they have to move out. So it's really, really bad. Mold and, like if you have lead contained in your paint, if you live in an old Queensland or in an old building, it was shocking. We just put our test strips out, and you can order them yourself on Amazon.com. There are several, and I show them later on. But you can put them out, and what you do is check out your environment that you do not absorb more toxins. Because as soon as you do, you actually decrease your ability to get well. And this is rule number one that everybody needs to do in order to get well. And some people turn around just from doing that. They just immediately get well because they take that burden off their immune system. Now, toxic supermarkets, all this area in the middle, who is still shopping those things? I don't know, you don't put up your hands. All that area, especially all the washing aisles, don't go in there, just the smell is toxic. So just stay away from this stuff, and I don't need to go into that more. Fluoride, I think we have a petition here for you to sign. If you don't have fluoride yet, everybody get involved and help to stop it. Our stupid Queensland has now put fluoride in, and it's such high concentrations. Well, you can prevent a problem by buying filters. You know, you need the three-phase filter. What is it? The reverse osmosis filter to get fluoride out. But, you know, if you don't have it, just don't let it put in.
Didn't they also, because I come from Queensland too, they actually they found that the plant made a mistake or something. Whoever was putting it in was putting in 3 times the amount. I think that is,
I don't think it's a mistake, and I don't think it is something that is by accident. I think it is properly designed, and I don't know, I think I've taken out the video. Yes, I did. It's a long video. We interviewed every single doctor. I was at 4 conferences where they spoke about fluoride. We have still seats over here. Ah, yeah. And they did actually explain fluoride. 1 part per million was permitted by the FDA. Now, if you take a normal toothpaste, you have 600 parts per million. And proven, it eats off the myelin sheath of your nerve, which means it makes you dull. It actually causes you to be less reactive. You cannot react to a situation anymore. And that's why Hitler has actually used it in concentration camps. He wasn't worried about their teeth. He was actually worried about them standing up for a rebellion. Then it was used in Russia. It was used all around the world in concentration camps to keep the population dull. Now, when you talk about conspiracy theory, who believes in conspiracy theory? Quite a number of you. We are at the moment really at a battle where governments try to take over and really do, you know, like taking gene manipulated weed into Australia is absolutely ridiculous, but they still do it. They've proven now that the gene defect that they cause with the mosquitoes and with the larvae and all the insects is actually transferred to humans, and they carry that gene defect. Children at the age of 5 die, up to the age of 5, die of that. And they still produce it. And they think it's going to be contained and nobody tests. And I really believe we hit a point of ignorance where we need to start to fight back. And the best way to do that is not buy this anymore, not buy any wheat anymore, not buy any starch, corn syrup, all of those things. Just stay away and eat locally fresh grown produce that you can buy on your farmers markets, that you can buy from your local producer where you know where it comes from. Support that. And you know, if they don't sell anything, that's the first indication for them to change. But as long as we consume all this crap, now we don't need to go into that. None of that is healthy. We had a stall today which was meant to be here with cleaning materials. They either didn't find it or they thought you already have everything from them. But they produce organic products, and you find them in most of the health food shops and natural health food stores. Get stuff which is non-toxic, which is good to the environment. Like in the motel where I stay, they have those big blue tablets in the toilet and room fresheners and everything. And I said, when I walked in, I'm not going to survive that. So I pulled everything out, and he said, what'd you do? And I said, I can't stay in here. Opened up all the windows, and because that's toxic, that stuff. So don't use it. Fragrances are really bad. All right, GMO, we just had that. Now this was just sent out. Who is subscribed to Natural News Health Ranger? Okay, everybody please do that. Write it down, Natural News. It's one of the most powerful news, and I've interviewed the whole group there, they are stunning. They really put a lot of effort in. They have so many legal problems to report about what they do, but you are top informed about everything that happens around the world. So that's really important. Now that was rats that they fed with that GMO corn. Look at those huge tumors those rats have. Nothing else but GMO corn to create that. So when you eat anything in the supermarket, whether it has the Heart Foundation tick or whether it has anything else, don't. Make your own cereals. There's great things that you can do. Get together in groups. We have a stunning group at the Sunshine Coast now, a cooking class where they all get together and they exchange recipes. They cook once a week together and they bring all their food and they explain it. And through that, this whole thing grows because a lot of young people don't know how to cook anymore. They just buy everything fresh from the supermarket and it's toxic. All right.
Everybody alive today has heavy metals. We know from scientific literature that people alive today have 1,000 times more lead in their body than 400 years ago. We're all being exposed to mercury because of burning of coal, which is being dumped in the ocean. We're still having mercury amalgams put in our teeth, exposing us to mercury. It was interesting to see recently that in the United Kingdom, they sent out policy to the crematorium saying you have to change the way you cremate people because when you cremate people with mercury amalgams, you're releasing too much mercury into the environment, it's making us sick, yet it still seems safe to put it in our mouths. So we're all exposed to these things. You know, you live next to a railway station, you live next to a crematorium, you're going to be exposed to mercury these days. The problem is the slow amount of heavy metal build up in our bodies, and it's very, very difficult to actually assess how much that is. I can tell you how much mercury you've accumulated in your brain, but I have to do a brain biopsy, and that's a universally fatal investigation. So that's probably not a good way of assessing how much heavy metals you've accumulated in your brain. We do have some markers in the blood though, just like we have markers for cancer. We have proteins in the blood that we can measure which will show us the activity of certain cancers in the body, and we have markers in the blood which can show how much heavy metals you have accumulated in your body over the period of time that you've been alive, and also the period of time that you've been in utero, because that's another really interesting point is people say, I don't understand if toxins and infections cause cancer, how come my infant has cancer? We have to remember that that infant's life didn't start on the day where they were born, it started 9 months earlier. Well, actually, it started even longer than that because it starts with the production of the egg. So the egg, which has been alive for the lifetime of the mother, has also been exposed to the toxins for the lifetime of the mother. So in fact, a 1-year-old, it may actually not be, from a cancer perspective, it's not actually 1-year-old, actually maybe 25 years old in terms of its toxic exposure. So the blood tests can be very useful in assessing how many heavy metals have accumulated in the body. There are blood tests like porphyrin, the immunoglobulins, G6PD, beta-2 microglobulin, which will show you how much heavy metals you have accumulated in your brain, in your tissues, and your liver over the period of your lifetime. Well, removing heavy metals the first part is to minimize exposure. If you've got a mouthful of amalgam fillings, doesn't matter how many chelating agents you're going to be doing. It's like standing on the Titanic with a bucket and saying, okay, I'm going to bail this baby out. I mean, you're just never going to succeed. The first thing you have to do is try and plug the hole in the sinking ship before you stand on the deck with a bucket. You're chewing on a cyanide tablet and say, okay, give me the antidote for cyanide. Well, the first thing you want to do is spit the capsule out. So you have to minimize your exposure. You have to look at what's in my water, what's in my ear, what's in my mouth. And the first thing I do when I look at a cancer patient is I look in their mouth. As a part of investigation, because you're going to find infection in the plaque, and we now know from data that just came out last week that mouth infections double your risk of cancer. I'm going to look to see if they've got any root canals, because root canals are always infected, and there you've got a trapped area of cancer forming exotoxins being excreted for the lifetime of the root canal, and I'll look to see if they've got mercury amalgams. And so that's the first part of the examination of anybody, and then you decide. You look at the biochemistry to see where the heavy metals are, and then you decide which is the best way to remove them. That can range from eating a lot of eggs, and we know eggs are one of the great therapeutic foods of all time, and they're very good at removing heavy metals, particularly from the brain. Having eggs and garlic data out recently that garlic not only removes mercury from the body, but also removes lead. So it can range from a garlicky omelette up to intravenous chelation using intravenous EDTA or using intravenous DMPS, things like that, which you only really reserve for people who can't do it orally or by more natural mechanisms, or who have got a terrible, terrible disease and you need to do it very, very quickly. Because an oral chelation program, and you can do some of those heavy metal chelators, as you know, orally, but they're not going to make a big difference in 2 or 3 months. They're going to make a big difference in the next 2 or 3 years as you slowly remove the toxins from your body. If you need a quick response, I've got severe cardiovascular disease, I've got a major cancer, I'm full of heavy metals, you need to do it intravenously to accelerate the removal of the heavy metals.
Now, that chelation therapy and that heavy metal detox is not a fast process, but it is one of the most important ones. I had a friend, or have a friend, and he was diagnosed 8 years ago with colon cancer, then bowel cancer, then lung cancer, and it spread all through his body. And he had no chance to get rid of it until we did the DNA test with him. We found out that he can't detoxify, and I'll come to that in a moment. And then we started a very, very serious detox program with him. And he's now reversing all cancers. He's doing extremely well. So heavy metal detox is one of the fundamental parts that we all need to do. And as you've seen from the video, it didn't start, like when you started breathing and then with all the creams. It started already with the life of your mother. Now, what does your mother inherit? All the toxins already from grandma. When you see 260 or 280 neurotoxins, heavy metals and endocrine disruptors, and all of those toxins, carcinogens, in the mother, in the umbilicum cord, which means it's passed on and it just increases every year. I was talking to the environmental health group, and the test that they did, the maximum was 480 out of a lower class family. 480 toxins in that one child. They tested for over 700. Now, that's really one of the main things. And I'd just like to mention that short. When you see rich people, what do they eat? Good quality food, wild game, fresh salmon, veggies, smaller portions, high quality. Do they eat junk? Do they eat fast food? Do they eat cheap food from the supermarket? No. Why do you think they get cleverer? Smarter? Because they produce a different gut bacteria. And the gut bacteria is 100% linked to your brain. They say this is your second brain. Now, if you have a healthy gut bacteria, you have a healthy brain. And then you look at the other side who eat junk, they get really sick. And I found like the lower class, Mexico, America, all of those people who just go quite often to McDonald's because it's only $1 or $2, they have bucket loads of toxins that they have to deal with, and they have the highest rates of cancer, the highest rates of diseases. So it's one indication. It's certainly not the whole game. We need to look at the mind, we need to look at many things, but it is one of the main elements. And Remede, the clinic that is here today, which, a second presenter has built up in the meantime. And I'm really happy that Siobhan is here, but they do heavy metal detox. They offer a lot of support with detoxification. In Mexico, when you go to San Oviv, a stunning clinic, really. It's a dream holiday if you want to, and then you do at the side some treatment. But they have every morning for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner, a whole garlic clove. You just eat it raw. And everybody smells pretty heavily in the beginning. After a while, it fades. But it is stunning, and they use that as an oral chelation. Raw egg in a smoothie in the morning, and it binds to all the toxins and it flushes them out. So you can do a lot of things on your own. And we have in our home study course and in our book like a whole series. And as I said, I've just interviewed 28 world-leading experts in detoxification, and it's mind-blowing what you can do on your own to get rid of those toxins to actually have a chance. Now, this is has already played. Did you see it? So you've seen it all? I'll repeat it because it's really too important to miss. And then we do a test. Okay, this is a 25-year-old amalgam tooth. And you can see the fumes coming up. It's pretty bright here, so you see it very hard. See that? See the fumes coming off it? 25-year-old amalgam tooth extracted and then rubbed, like when you eat something, and that's what's still leaching out from that tooth. Now, who of you has amalgam fillings? Still have them? Okay, that's what you absorb of mercury, which is one of the most dangerous toxins, into your body every day.
When the dentist removes them, does that create a lot of...
There are ways, and again on our website you can see many ways. I don't know whether you have a holistic dentist here. I would guess you do.
There's only one in Fremantle.
In Fremantle, good.
There's an Indian one in Bentley called
Okay, now what you need to do for heavy metal detox is, first of all, he needs to have all the evacuation. They need to have all the suction, you know, like a big pipe, then around your tooth. They line the mouth out with rubber so that nothing can get in. It's a real procedure. They usually sit there with gas masks if they're clever, because otherwise they can't think anymore, because it's one of the biggest brain toxins that there is. So you don't want them in any form to have, you know, if you have a dumb doctor, you have no chance.
Excuse me, would this be causing all the brain tumours?
Yeah, it's related. It's related to a lot of brain tumors. It's related to many. Mercury lead is related to breast cancer with over 70%, to ovarian cancer. There's, like Dr. Rao showed me the study, and we have it on our website as well, in our members area. It's a whole study which shows you which cancer is related to which kind of toxins and heavy metals, and what they found in those many years of study. Now, what they do is they line the whole mouth, and they have all the extraction so that you don't breathe in. You have oxygen through your nostrils so that you breathe in fresh air. And then you need to start beforehand with a heavy antioxidant load, and you start with an oral chelation beforehand so that heavy metals need to be pulled out of the body. You can do EDTA, you can do zeolite, like garlic, eggs, a whole list, and we cover some of them later. But you need to prepare that, and then you have your removal, and then during that time I would actually work with a naturopath or with a holistic clinic to help you to really support that detoxification, because once it's out, your body needs to deal with all the toxins that are in your body and starts to flush them out. So you want to do that wisely. As again, in our home study course, we have like the whole procedure as they do it, and you know, it's everybody's own choice, but it's a really, really important one. It's that baby boomer time that was really, I had, and I can tell my own story, I had so many mercury fillings all through the back because I was eating loads of sweets and sugar, and I could not concentrate at school. My parents sent me to a special education school because I couldn't think. I could not write 2 sentences without fading away in concentration. I had no possibility to write. They called me legasthenic. Then they called me ADHD. Then they sent me to another school because I couldn't focus to what the teacher said for longer than 5 minutes. And after the heavy metal was removed, and I went through a series of detox and chelation and mercury removal, I can write my own book now. And I can focus and concentrate for hours. And I'm clear as a bell compared to what was before. You have no clue when you don't know it. You know, like when you're still in the soup, you don't see how it's outside. It's like flying in the clouds, and you can't imagine how blue the sky is. And that's what happens as soon as you remove those toxins from your brain, because that's where they are mainly located. You open up to a world that you have never seen before. And you can focus and concentrate for a long time. Your fatigue goes. And if you look at the heavy metal effect onto your body, it causes havoc with your hormones, with everything. So that's one of the key elements to remove. All right, Dental toxins, look, we have it here. Sealants, what they do with little children, full with BPA. So don't do that. Find another way. Don't put those sealants on because they leach out BPA, and we cover that in a moment, what that does. The next problem with teeth, no, wrong button. You know, I normally have my son with me, who is my technical genius, and he organizes that for me. Okay, teeth up here. The biggest problem is when you have 2 or 3 different metals in your mouth. When you come to any of the holistic doctors, dentists that are really good, and you have, let's say, platinum, a crown, then you have a pin, and then you have amalgam filling, it causes cross-firing of conductive energy. It's like an electric field in your mouth, which stimulates hormone dysfunction in your brain. It stimulates stress levels in your brain. It's one of the key elements that they remove as the very first. Once they've done that, they look at root canal filled teeth. Now, a root canal filling, you see that white stuff out here, right and left? That's called the dentin. Now, they drill out the middle piece and fill that with the toxic substance so that they seal it. And they close off down here so that the blood flow doesn't go in and kill off the nerve. And then those little tubules that are in the dentin, and that's thousands of little tubes, they fill up with bacteria. Now, those bacteria leach out toxin into your bloodstream, which is so toxic that you could drink a bottle of Roundup and it would be harmless against it. They did the test again. Samuel Epstein did the test of those toxic leeches that come from your teeth. They are so dangerous. So when you have root canal filled teeth and they are older, you guarantee that they have those bacteria in them, which means it's another battlefield for your immune system. You just imagine you have 50,000 soldiers. We have a few more, 500 million. But you have those soldiers and they work on your teeth. The other one work in your gut. The other group works here. And then you run out. You have not enough soldiers and you have more areas of damage done. And that is then causing the problem. And the last one is cavitations. Now, cavitations are quite invisible and you don't feel them. You have a tooth removed and it grows closed up on top. And inside, they didn't clean out properly, which means the bacteria are now in a cave. And they breed happily in there because it's warm and moist, and they leach out the same toxins into your bloodstream. Now, in Switzerland, there is a new method. It's brand new. It's in California and Switzerland are the only clinics that I know at the moment. They take a different type of shot of your teeth. It's a panorama shot, but it shows you all your inflammations in your mouth in color. And they show you exactly where you have those cavitations. And I think it's just a matter of time until all the dentists have it. It's actually cheaper than X-ray and no damage done. And they show you where those cavitations are. And then they drill a little hole from the outside through the bone. They inject lactic acid or something that starts a little infection. You know, left spinning lactic acid, which works against the right spinning of the inflammation. And they start to induce acute inflammation over a series of 5 times. And through that, your body cleans up all that area, starts to rebuild it. And acute inflammation is what heals. Chronic inflammation is what kills. So they recreate an acute inflammation in that area. You might have 2 or 3 days a swollen cheek, but it starts to repair that area and they have stunning success. So that's a way that you could do. Well, and we have that already. I don't know with your water whether it's toxic or not, whether they fill in a lot of chemicals as well. You know, you wouldn't think you're so far away from the rest of the world, but it could well be. So if you have water filters, put a shower filter on. You know, they say men don't have hair up on top because that's where they shower with all the toxins. I don't believe that, but it might be a reason. It's really important that you filter that out. If you have a baby or you plan to have babies, well, then put a filter in to fill their bathtub. Don't start to fill in all those toxins right from start. Okay, BPA. And I think this is something a lot of people, who knows about BPA already? Okay, everybody, cool. Which means we don't need to cover that. I just show you that. Every house that is built today is built with plastic pipes, true? Now they are all full with BPA, which means you cannot have water from your tap, which is not toxic. So just to be careful, every can that you purchase has toxic lining, BPA lining, so no cans. Certainly no sodas. But what I want to show you here is this. Now PHAs, BPAs, all of those are very tiny little particles that actually dog on to your DNA. They are so tiny that they set themselves up in the DNA, and if you do that before you are pregnant, before or while, then they are those toxins which cause hereditary problems. Now in this next image, we have two identical twins. Now this mouse here and this mouse are identical twins. Doesn't look like it, huh? This one was fed with BPA-laden food. All they did, and I just had the interview last week with the lady in the laboratory in England who did the test, they actually just warmed up the food in plastic containers in a microwave, whereas the other mouse had normal, neutral food. Identically the same food, just added BPA. Second generation, obese, half life expectancy, heart problems, fertility problems, and seriously sick, no energy. No other change except BPA. Now they taken this mouse, this mother mouse, and you see the DNA was damaged from that mouse. And they started to feed that mouse. Where's my slide? Oh no. As I say. Okay, and they started to feed that mouse with special nutrients. They gave a very designed nutrient supplementation to that mouse, which repaired the DNA, which replaced those things which the DNA was destroyed, and that was the offspring. That was the baby. Which means the mother was still sick, but the offspring, the baby that was born from that sick mother, was again completely healthy. And when I found that, we're just making a new movie which is called Let's Heal the Future. And I've interviewed about 60 doctors so far, which are all working in the genetic field. And I tell you what, it's the most amazing thing that has been discovered, that we can repair our DNA, that we can repair the damage that we've done. It doesn't work if you don't get babies anymore. It only works if you are still in that pre-phase, or when you have grandchildren and you can help them to actually move into that right direction. If you have children which are still preparing for family, but it's amazing what we can change. And that's where I get really passionate about. But I think I come back to that. Now, that means we shop with we vote with our shopping cart. This is really key. You just don't buy those things, which means they stop. We educate others. My family hates that. I do that at the beach. I do that in the supermarket. I do that everywhere. Like daddy, stop, and they walk into another aisle. But I tell people, don't buy that. Look, there is another healthier option. And I do that everywhere. So I said, who cares? They think he's nuts, but it's a seed. And I don't bother if somebody thinks I'm nuts, as long as I planted the seed. I do that at the beach, in the mountains when they put on Suncream. I tell them that. I gave them websites. I give out my movie. I think we can change if we're brave enough to speak up, and we all should do that. Okay, we had that. That's one of those reverse osmosis filters. These are the plants. We have them all on our website that you can do against formaldehyde. Buy one of those test kits and put it on your couch. Put it on your mattress where you sleep. Your bed can be full with fumes, formaldehyde fumes from the foams. So if you sleep half of your life in a mattress which gases out formaldehydes, it's not going to be very good. So there are alternatives, latex, wool mattresses, futons, but you need to do that. Okay. Mold, we had that. Cleaning, household items. And that brings us to the next level.